It's been a wild season for Clemson basketball, and if you've followed all the ups and downs, you know that Clemson basketball is up right now. They went on the road and beat Georgia Tech, avenging their disappointing loss at home to them, and then they came home. They beat Florida State, and now they've won 4 out of 5, or 5 out of 6 actually. And this season's just been weird year. Actually, a lot like UConn's last year, where they start out great, hit a terrible spell, and then to be determined, but appears like finish strong. Here's how it went for Clemson: 11-1 in their first 12 games, included huge wins at Alabama. They beat Pittsburgh on the road, TCU, South Carolina, which turned out to be a very good win. Lots of big wins early, not just good record, but they adjusted last year. They were severely punished for a weak non-con, so they you could even argue overcorrected and scheduled an extremely tough non-conference schedule, and they aced it with just one loss at Memphis that, frankly, if Chase Hunter plays a little better, they might even win that one. Then they go into this terrible slump, 9 games of going 3-6. They lose to Miami, North Carolina, where they really probably should have won that game, but they couldn't buy a three-pointer. Virginia Tech, where they lose pretty handily. Georgia Tech, where they blow a 9-point lead with just a few minutes to go. Duke, they lose on a bad call. And Virginia, they lose late. So they go 3-6 there, drops into 4-6 in the ACC with that early season win at Pitt. And it seemed like this team was collapsing. I even put out a message on X saying I was wrong about this team. I really believed in them. Clearly, with this game looming in Chapel Hill, seems like I'm going to be wrong. They go to Chapel Hill, win for the second time ever, improve to 2-60 there, and are 5-1, including that game over the last 6, with a 1 loss being a home loss to NC State. But they beat UNC, who's currently number 1 in the conference. They beat Syracuse, who's kind of a fringe-ish bubble team. They beat Miami, who they couldn't beat on the road. They host Miami and beat them, get revenge there. They go to Atlanta, and they beat Georgia Tech, and then most recently they just beat Florida State at home. So they're really on the upswing. They're currently projected as a 5 seed. So if you abandon ship during the 3-6 stretch, this is your chance. Get back on. This is a tournament team, likely somewhere in the 4, 5, 6 kind of range. So there's a lot of good there. Let's talk about the last 2 games. Before I jump into that, just note below, if you really enjoyed this channel, please subscribe. And if you're a subscriber, you want to go the extra mile, there's ways you can contribute to the channel down below. All right, so they won 81-57 at Georgia Tech, a totally dominating performance. A few spots where you thought they were going to put them away and go up, 20 or 30, and eventually they did. Obviously, getting a 24-point win at 81-57. But to me, the most encouraging thing was PJ Hall wasn't great. Or at least not great inside. They like to attack outside from 3 in that game, which I don't really love to see. I love it when Hall and Shefflin are adding threes on top of what they can do inside. But you'd rather see Clemson play inside out. They didn't do that, but it didn't matter because they made all these threes. It was incredible. But also Chase Hunter seems to be getting back to, and maybe even taking a step up from, what he did last year. He hasn't had a great year this year. His 3-point shooting has been bad, to be quite frank, except in the last 3-ish games. He's really stepped it up. He made 4 threes at Georgia Tech, scored 18 points, going 6 for 10 overall, and also had 6 assists. He looked really sharp, not hesitant, and he hasn't been shy about shooting the 3, but now he's actually making them. Then they came home and they host Florida State. Opportunity for a big letdown game. They've been better on the road. Would they have that big letdown coming home? Absolutely not. Chase Hunter, again, was excellent. He scored 16 points, going 6 for 12. He knocked down 2 threes and had 4 more assists, and we're starting to see consistency. And Clemson's a different team when he's more than just athletic. When he is a distributor who's scoring and making the open threes, this is a very hard Clemson team to beat. Clemson won despite pretty bad efforts. I shouldn't say efforts, pretty bad performances from both Hall and Shefflin. They looked a little discombobulated. PJ Hall fouled out, although I will say the last one was a somewhat ridiculous technical foul. But nonetheless, he wasn't really attacking inside. They weren't going to him. He was in foul trouble and was in and out, never really in the flow of the game. And it didn't matter. Clemson was dominant because Joe Girard and Chase Hunter were awesome. They really need one of them. I mean, they've got a couple stars, right? You really think of Chase Hunter Joe Girard and PJ Hall. You get 2 out of the 3 cooking, and they're really hard to beat. And it's had to be Girard and Hall for most of the year, but now we're seeing Chase Hunter step up. So when you have more options, this team's really, really dangerous. Joe Girard is obviously just an absolute stud, really, really great player. And he's really become one of my favorite players to watch, despite only being here for 1 year. He is shooting, let's see if I can get the exact percentage. He has been incredible from the free throw line, shooting 94.9%, tops in the ACC. He keeps it. No, he can finish the year at 95% free throw shooter, which is just mind blowing. 42.5% from 3. So he is just super efficient. He works really hard to get open, and he is not shy about it. But at that clip, just chuck him up, because those are really high effective field goal percentage shots. Obviously worth 150% as much as a 2-pointer. So with that being said, let's take a look at the ACC standings, because what is really interesting now is what's next and what's ahead for Clemson. So here's the top couple in the ACC, Duke and North Carolina in the top 2 spots, and they'll likely finish that way. Virginia could leapfrog Duke because they do play, but those top 3 are semi-locked in. You could see Virginia lose to Duke and drop into a tie with Wake Forest, but they have that tiebreaker anyway. They have the tiebreaker with Clemson. So it's really a battle for the 4 seed. And why that's so significant is the 4 seed gets 2 byes, whereas the 5 seed only gets 1 bye. And if we go back and we look at Clemson's past success in the ACC tournament, they oftentimes win a game. You could see the gray bars indicating wins in the ACC tournament. They win a game in the ACC tournament most of the time, at least recently. But stringing together 2 wins has been more than rare. It's actually not happened in the Brownell era. And this season, they've only strung together 3 wins at most in the ACC. So if you want a shot at winning the ACC and you think you could maybe string together 3 wins, you need that double bye. So you're one of the 4 teams with a double bye. You win in the round of 8, you win in the round of 4, and then you win the championship. It's really, really hard to see Clemson doing it without getting that 4 seed. So that's what makes this so critical. So let's talk about what's ahead for Clemson. They have Pittsburgh at home. Pittsburgh's quite good. They're 54th in KenPom, but Clemson gives them a 72% chance to win that game. That does bake in some home court advantage, which I don't know that Clemson has shown. Clemson's only 4-4 at home in the ACC. I don't know that they've shown that they're taking advantage of that. So I might even be less confident in that 72% than KenPom is. The thing with Pitt, they're playing pretty good basketball. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of their last 7. They just beat Virginia Tech. They beat NC State and Virginia. They beat Wake Forest. They lost to Wake Forest as well. They split with them, but some pretty good wins in that stretch, including at Virginia. So that's going to be really tough. And if Clemson loses that game, they're probably out of the hunt for all intents and purposes in terms of that 4 seed. Pittsburgh's remaining games at Clemson, at BC, which they'll probably win, Florida State at home, and then NC State. They could lose to NC State, but if they beat Clemson, they'll have the tiebreaker anyway, and NC State already has the tiebreaker. So the Pitt game is a must-win in almost all circumstances if Clemson's going to get that 4 seed. After Pitt, they go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is bottom of the ACC. They're not very good this year. It's on the road, but I think Clemson has proven they're good on the road, and I think they'll handle business there. They get Syracuse at home. They win that. They essentially eliminate Syracuse from the race. I think Clemson is the better team. Syracuse is only 85 in KenPom. Clemson is 24. And speaking of that, let's take a look at just how good this Clemson team is relative to past Clemson teams. So 24th in KenPom would make this Clemson's second best team of the Brownell era, with only that 2017-2018 team who made the Sweet 16 run in the 2018 March Madness being better. So this is a really, really historically good Clemson team. I think fans need to make sure they're not missing that, just how good this Clemson team is and sort of the opportunity that is ahead of them. So Pittsburgh, then you go to Notre Dame, then you get Syracuse, and then if Clemson could technically lose at lose at Notre Dame and still be in the hunt, but then sort of regardless, you're going to have to beat Wake Forest. Wake Forest has at Notre Dame, at Virginia Tech, and Georgia Tech left. They're not losing twice. They might lose once, but either way, they've got a game up on Clemson. So for the 4 seed, you're probably going to need either Wake Forest to lose one or Clemson, or if they win out, Clemson has to win out, and it's coming down to that final day. You go to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is 20th in KenPom. Clemson has a 36% chance to win up there, according to KenPom, and I think that's probably the battle for the 4 seed and the double bye. In my view, I'll pull this back up. North Carolina, Duke, Virginia are obviously tournament teams. I think Wake has all but clinched with their win against Duke. And what's crazy is they stormed the court, and Kyle Filipowski, I only saw the video once. I'm not going to go into too much of a breakdown. He didn't seem like he was in a huge rush to get off the court, and it seemed like slightly bumped by some Wake Forest fans. And he fell over and sprained his ankle. Seems kind of serious. Wake Forest AD put out an apology and saying they're going to try to do better with security, but I'm worried that this will end court storming. We'll see. Hopefully, one incident doesn't end it, because to me, court storming is such a fun part of the student body experience. I still remember doing it as a student when we beat Duke 74-47. I remember running on the court and Trevor Booker, and so I hope they don't get rid of that because of this one thing. But nevertheless, I think Wake has all but clinched, and Clemson. So there's 5, and then I think you see one of Pitt, NC State, or Syracuse fight for that 6th bid from the ACC. I think that's probably 6 they can get in. And Pitt is storming, and I think they're the favorite for it right now. So going to be a really tough game on Tuesday. We'll probably determine if Clemson has a shot on their final game of the year for the 4 seed in the ACC tournament. So hope you've enjoyed Clemson basketball. Hope you didn't bail too soon. And if you have, you're welcome back. So definitely get in and enjoy a historically good Clemson team. Hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We're getting close to 900, so we're over 800. So thank you so much to everyone who's already subscribed. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. Please like this video. And as always, thanks for watching, and go Tigers.